All right, and we are live. And I'm not going to giggle like a little schoolgirl this time.
I will. I'm just kidding.
Hi, guys. And for anyone that shows up later on down the road. So, tonight we are going to be talking about the different aspects in astrology. So, when you get your chart, and this is just a new moon that I did for 2021. But when you look at a chart, it'll show all of the, like in the center, do you see the squares and the triangles and all that? Those are aspects. And there's many different things that factor in with aspecting, like degrees, like elements, like how far they are apart, whether or not they're, well, anyways, we'll get into it. So, Sissy, do you want to start reading?
Sure. Says, while the planets move, they have conversations with one another, and aspecting is what we call it. It is also how we determine the way they communicate with each other and how that affects our charts. The different angles and degrees are how we see this in our charts. So
it's like they're having conversations. Are they having healthy conversations? Are they fighting? Are they not communicating with each other? Or are they like friends and they're working together? That's what aspecting is.
Oh, wow. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. So conjunction is 0 to 8 degrees. Conjunction planets are working together. 2 or more planets making up a team. Some do work better together than others. Planets in conjunction are usually sharing a house, but not always.
So, one thing that all of us that are in here, we have all seen our real sky and our western. So today we're going to also be throwing in real sky. Okay. So with that being said, it's a lot easier to have several houses. Granted, you could do this in western too, depending on how they're figuring it, whether they're whole houses or half houses or whatever. But like, for instance, you can have like 3 different houses in one sign. Or, I mean, you can have 3 different signs in one house. You see what I mean? Or you could have several different planets that are in conjunction with each other. Like, for instance, mine, I've got, let me pull it up here really quick. So I have got a conjunction between Mars and Jupiter in Libra in my 5th house. I have between Jupiter and Neptune in my 5th house. But here's the difference. My 5th house actually carries 3 different astrological signs. It's Libra, Scorpio, and Ophiuchus are all in my 5th house. Then I also have a conjunction between Neptune and Venus also in my 5th house. And then I've got some other ones too, but I've got 4 planets that are right next to each other, all 4 of them, all within roughly 8 degrees of each other. So that means they're all working in conjunction with each other.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have a solarium like that.
Within those signs as well, because the signs have a lot to do with what is in that house as well. So that's where you see astrology starts getting really complex.
Oh, yeah.
It's not as simple as the worksheets. That's why I didn't do any worksheets on these, because there's so many endless. I would be at making worksheets forever.
Right. I understand.
So let's see. Maria says she looked hers up and she's got 3 conjunctions. One is with my MC, okay, which is your midheaven. Got Mars and Mercury in your 10th house. Okay. Well, and the thing about conjunctions also is, well, I guess that's a different one actually. Because different ones have to do with, like, if you're working with the same kind of elements or elements that are complementary, like your air and your fire and your water and your earth. That has to do with some of them also. So Mars being a planet of like fire and, oh, okay. And like activity and logic and war, and Mercury being about like communication, mental thought. You can see like fiery communication, right?
Oh,
But
yeah.
an inner 10th house, which has to do with career and the father, you can see where, if these are supposed to be working in conjunction with each other, where there would be a good balance in that, where you're not getting too completely in your, when you're dealing with others, you're not like so fiery that you lose your thought process. Like you don't let your like anger overtake you. And I have never seen Maria, granted, I don't think we've ever really gotten into it, and I don't want to, but I'm saying I don't think that I've ever seen you where you let like your anger just totally take over like your reason. You know what I mean? So they're working in conjunction with each other. And also when it has to do with like your readings and stuff like that, you can also take that passion and that excitement, mix that with your intellect and the way that you communicate with others, and use that in your profession, which is the 10th house. Or in the way that you deal with maybe men, because that is also the house of the father. So the male figure. And then she says she's got Jupiter and Saturn in her second house. Oh, actually, that's pretty good too, though, because Saturn's all about limitation and Jupiter's all about let's expand. So that actually keeps you more balanced if they're working in conjunction with each other, to keep you more like a temperance kind of thing. And in your second house, that has to do with like your early childhood and oh my God, that makes complete sense. You had to, where you grew up, you had to be really, really careful about what you show to other people, about your feelings and stuff like that. And you had certain restrictions about things that you were allowed to say in public, right? So that makes perfect sense also, where you would want to just expand and express. Yeah, East Germany. So where you would want to expand and express, you can't necessarily because you're limited. So the placement of those two together actually helped you, actually helps keep you balanced, help keep you in that kind of mentality. I pull back before I explode and gather my thoughts to know what I want. Exactly. So that works perfectly. And then you also have, and Chiron is in your midheaven in 9th. Yeah, I think mine is my Chiron. I don't remember. But anywho, you want to move on or we'll be here forever? Sorry, sissy. So the sextile.
No, you're fine. I was just looking at my chart. Okay, let me pull this back up here. The sextile, 60 degrees. Compatible elements are linked together with planets in the 60-degree angle known by the name of a sextile. Comparable elements are fire and air, as well as earth and water. The sextile promotes an active exchange between the participating planets so that they will be eager to work together in a happy union.
Right. You've got 8 sextiles. Okay. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's a cluster of them, so I can't really tell on here because I don't have my other chart pulled up. But so a sextile means that they're working good together. So some of my sextiles are like Neptune and the moon. So that dreamy, feminine energy, that watery energy makes sense.
Okay, yeah.
And that's also in my 5th house. Well, 5th and 3rd. So they're communicating with each other, which has to do with fun and also like family and friends. Oh, and siblings. The 3rd house is siblings. So that's why you and I have such fun together, Sissy. Or one of the reasons. And we have like very common interests.
That makes sense.
Mars and Mercury both with the AC, and Jupiter and Saturn with North Node. I got Sun and Moon, so balanced once again. Exactly. I've got a trine with my Sun and Moon. I've got a trine. So why don't we move on, Sissy? Because we'll be here forever.
Yeah. All right. Square 90 degrees. Planets that are at a square aspect, 90-degree angle, are at cross purposes. They are at friction with each other because one is constantly challenging the other.
Right. So think of 2 people that come from 2 totally different mindsets, or the way that they were raised, or their ethics, or, you know, their moral standing. And one sees it one way, or you get people that have different perspectives and they refuse to see it with somebody else's perspective. That's what a square is.
Okay.
That's what a square is. Now, I will tell you.
Yeah.
Much of this that we've been talking about is in this book right here. Okay. I cannot stress how wonderful this book is. And in this, there is several pages, but I wanted to about this particular subject matter. Like I said, I would have been at it forever if I would have been making worksheets. So I'm just going to say, buy the damn book. If you don't have it, buy it. Okay. Because if you want to know astrology, this is going to teach you almost every freaking thing. Everything that we've done so far is all in this book. This has been one of my basic books, among a couple other ones, but this one has been my main one. So I want to tell you, a square. So the potential for a square is productivity through focus of energy, meaning, where is it? It can produce stress with and creates dynamic tension with. However, it also does say in another part, I can't remember. Oh, the potential for a square is, productivity through focus of energy. So if you have some sort of compromise, first it's about them recognizing, or maybe that was the other one too, but I would think that a square is the same way. Let me see if that was this. Okay, in opposition, right. I would think a square is the same way. Once you recognize that there is an issue there, that's when you can overcome, because you know that those 2 natures that are fighting against each other, not only does it help when you see this in your chart and you see these 2 planets that are fighting against each other, not only does it understand maybe a couple of different natures or conflicts that you might have within yourself, but at the same time, knowing that, it's like, that's where we can start looking at our shadow works, is in like the squares and where they are on your chart, what planets they are, what houses they are. That's like shadow work. Okay. I just wanted to say that really quick. Okay. So all of these have potential. So the ones that are opposition and stuff like that, they actually have more potential for major growth. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. You want to read the trine, Sissy?
So the trine at 120 degrees. Planets in a trine are said to be planets of the same element that are 120 degrees apart, that understand each other and work well together. They show an ease of communication and traditionally thought as is favorable. However, they get too comfortable with each other, they can also get lazy or spoiled. This just means you have to keep them operating with each other because they can show our urges or needs in support of one another.
Right. So, like, I have a trine between my sun and my moon. So for me, I would go back to, also when you're looking at these, go back to the planet worksheets and look at what the characteristics for each one of those planets are, or, you know, luminaries, which is your sun and moon. See what they are and see how they would work good together. You know what I mean? So like the moon is like that hidden information kind of thing, and trusting your intuition and the feminine principle, right? It's that receptive energy. Whereas the sun is that active energy. So if I have a trine between the two, it means, which I do, and this is probably why I always have such strong faith in whatever I'm doing at every level of my journey, regardless of whether I find out 5 years later, well, that wasn't exactly right. But it doesn't matter. We just talked about this with my dreams, because the moon is also like your dreams and fantasy and stuff like that as well. I trust in my intuition, and then I act on it, which would be the sun. So it's that trying together that helps me to be able to do that. So look at those kind of things in your charts. The elements refer to the signs the planets are in, or to the elements of the planets. No, it refers to the elements of the planets. So for instance, the sun is fire. The moon is like water. Mercury is air. Earth, well, Earth isn't on here, but Jupiter is that air? I can't remember. Neptune is water. Uranus, I believe, is also air. And Pluto is fire, I believe, also. And Mars is fire. Venus is water. Yeah, I believe.
Fire.
What's that?
Jupiter's fire.
Jupiter's fire. Okay. Probably because, is that a gas planet? I can't remember. I don't know. But anywho, moving on.
All right. Is that quincunx?
Quincunx or quincunx? I don't know. Quincunx?
Okay, all right. That is 150 degrees. This aspect joins different planetary elements, which can lead to a frustrating type of communication and pronunciation.
Exactly.
It has long been considered to require an adjustment in the way the planets are being used. There is a feeling of being pushed or forced to perform. They do seem to relate to health issues also.
Quincunx. Oh, Venus is Earth. Okay. So quincunx, this is where we can see a lot of growth. We have to be creative when we have a quincunx, because, like it said, there is like communication, frustration, because they see things differently. However, if we are creative with that energy and try to find a connection somehow, or rethink how we're doing this is where, like, for instance, let me look and see on mine what I have really quick. Okay, I have, looks like one quincunx, which is, I know that sounds funny, my Saturn with my Uranus. My Saturn and my Uranus. So Uranus is like
big and fluffy.
extravagant.
Mine is big and fluffy. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're funny. extravagant. And what is funny with that, though, I believe Uranus is the new ruler of Aquarius. And Saturn used to be, or still is, the traditional ruler of Aquarius. So we go from having limitations to being the more eccentric and higher thought processes. Because if I remember right, Uranus, because I don't have the planets, the worksheets in front of me, believe that Uranus was the higher octave of Mercury, isn't it? Which is the mental planet.
Yes, yes, yep.
So with saying that, sometimes with my own limitations, because of Saturn, granted, this is also in my 10th house. And it's also interesting with the Saturn in my 10th house because, it's the ruler of Capricorn, the ruler of what is considered the 10th house. But it's also in the sign of Aries, which is debilitated. Saturn is debilitated in Aries, so it has less power. But not just that. I thought I was retrograde. I wasn't born during a retrograde. I was born during the phase of when it went like nothing. It's like standing still. And then the very next day it went regular again. So it was in between retrograde and regular direct. So standing still. So what the hell does that mean? I still haven't seen anything about that. So that's where my quintux is. So I have to be creative in those areas. Got none of those. Okay. Do you have any of those, Sissy?
Yeah. Oops. I just take out of it, I think. There it is. Let's see. It's on my. Oh goodness, what planet is that? Uranus.
Oh.
And Saturn.
Oh, like me.
Mm-hmm.
What house?
It's going across, so I'm just looking at my chart, the actual chart, the wheel, and it looks like it's either in the 9th house or the 2nd house.
Oh.
Something like that.
Okay, so you're seeking. Okay. So, oh my God, this makes perfect sense. At least it does to me. And every astrologer is going to see different things based on the way that they read. But for me, the 2nd house is where we start associating with like our parents and the things that we gain, right? Losses and gains and stuff like that. But the 9th house is about our spirituality. So feeling restricted with Saturn because of the family traditions that we've had.
Yeah.
But wanting to bust out of that with Uranus.
Yep.
Ooh, and the plot thickens.
Yes, it does.
Okay, in opposition, this is the last one.
Opposition, 180 degrees. This aspect shows 2 planets working against each other, which can lead to struggles in the proper way or approach using these energies to their benefit. They are like 2 individuals not budging from their point of view. The only way they'll work together is awareness of the other and a newfound compromise. I'm sure I have that too.
Sorry, give me a second.
Oh yeah, looks like I got a few of them.
Okay, yes. So opposition. Sorry, I had a course, my husband's trying to call me. He knows I'm doing a live right now.
That's usually how it goes.
Yeah, opposition. So whatever you have straight across 180 degrees, because the circle is 360. So whatever you see right across that are of opposing like elements, those are going to be the ones that are just like, well, you don't see it my way, you know, screw you. But these are the opportunities, just like the squares, that if you can be creative, and once you are aware that you have this issue, then you can try to find a new like compromise, how to work within these two opposing energies. So
what does the that real sky 13th sign look like? There's one on here I don't recognize, and it's on my true sky. It looks like a key almost.
No, that's your Chiron.
Oh, that's my Chiron. Okay.
Right.
That's right. We went over that already. Okay.
Ophiuchus looks like a U with a line like that through it, like this.
Oh, okay. I got you.
That's Ophiuchus.
Yep. I see that. Okay.
So let's move on to the real sky.
But I have one of those oppositions with my Chiron and my Uranus.
And I have two oppositions. One with my Uranus and my Chiron. Carla, oh my God.
Yeah.
And
in the second house for me.
And it's in the third house for me and the ninth house.
Yeah, second and eighth for me.
And my other one is with my Pluto and my Chiron. And my Chiron is in my ninth house, right next to my midheaven in Pisces, by the way. All right, so most of the real sky ones go to Chiron. Okay, so all three of us, it's like that. Wow. One of my oppositions is Neptune in the 13th sign, Golden Gate, and Mars in Taurus in the Silver Gate. Oh my God. And Mercury is right next to Mars. So, two oppositions between the gates. Wow. So you just need to learn, once you're aware of those things. So, Neptune and Mars. All right. So Neptune being the water and Mars being the fire, right? So, and the more in Taurus. Because Taurus is about how we use things, the pleasures that we find, which is ruled by Venus in the Silver Gate. And also in the 13th sign, Ophiuchus, Neptune. Wow, Neptune and Ophiuchus. See, I look at Neptune because the traditional ruler, or the ruler of, not the traditional, but the ruler of Pisces is Neptune, which is like that fantasy side of us, the dreamy side of us, the one that it's the intuition too. It's our dreams. It's our escape. It can be our escape, but it can also be mental illness if we get lost in that world too much. So, but with it being in the 13th sign, which we're going to go into next down here, let's just read the 13th sign really quick. So Ophiuchus is known as the serpent bearer. And it is the 13th sign of the zodiac, which shares the 8th house with the sign of Scorpio when using the real sky astrology system. Now, another name for real sky is true sidereal astrology. For anybody that watching this afterwards and doesn't wants to find it elsewhere. Imhotep is the only astrological sign based off of a human being, because it is Imhotep, and I didn't write that the right way, but in Egyptian, Hellenistic or whatever, the real sky, it's Imhotep that is depicted as the guy that's sitting there and then sitting on the serpent, right? It is the only astrological sign based off of a human being, a real human being. He was the designer of the pyramids and also known as the one who brought medicine to Egypt. Hence the snake, right?
Yeah.
Associate the snake also with medicine, the caduceus. So Imhotep was also associated with Thoth. Thoth was the god of wisdom, writing, hieroglyphics, science, magic, art, judgment, and the dead. Imhotep was associated with others as well, like Joseph from the Hebrew Bible, the dream prophet. I'm sure you've heard of Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat. Joseph was the younger brother of the 12 tribes of Israel.
Yep.
And he was the one that had the visions in order to help his people get out of bondage in Egypt in Exodus, in the book of Exodus. And he's also associated with Asclepius. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, by the Greeks. Ophiuchus was known as the medicine man who was taught by Chiron, the wounded healer. Yeah, which is interesting. According to Real Sky Astrology Tarot and the workbook, the Egyptian image of Ophiuchus shows an emphasis on the snake bearer as the image of the god Imhotep being carried away on a bearer that is a snake, the image of the goddess Wadjet. So making Imhotep the holy child of the divine feminine. There is so much for each of us to discover about the 13th sign, because there's different places that I've went, but there's not a whole lot of information about the 13th sign other than a few places. So, and this is kind of what I was talking to you about earlier, sis. Every time that something new in astrology has been discovered, like when Uranus and when Pluto was discovered, what they did was they would look at the political environment, the religious environment, all the things that were happening in the world, and that's what they would associate with that new discovery of that planet. So I just find that it's really interesting that the 13th sign has been not that the 13th sign hasn't been there, it has, but it's this rediscovery, this re-emerging of it now.
Just like the feminine energy.
Yes, just as the feminine energy, the feminine principle is coming back, which is Sophia of the Dragon Tribe.
Yep.
So, with all that being said, I didn't put characteristics on here because it doesn't really talk about a whole bunch of characteristics where I've looked. But from that information alone, the characteristics that I would put for this particular Ophiuchus is awakening, a healer, somebody who is an architect, somebody who is in contact with like higher beings, part of the feminine energy that is coming in. Those are all the things that I would associate with this particular sign. What do you guys think about that?
I would say, yeah.
It makes me think of the Sophia Dragon Tribe. And dragon and snake, serpent and snake have intertwined so closely.
I would say it's a very powerful person, probably somebody that you don't forget, is extreme.
So when you have things in that particular, like Maria with her Neptune in the 13th sign, Neptune being the ruler of Pisces, which, not to mention, when we move into the age of Aquarius, Pisces is going to be, when we actually make the transfer, but we're not quite there yet. We're not in that age. So we're on the cusp, which means we take on the energy of both of them, right? So That's why people are awakening right now,
Yep.
because they are going through this awakening of Aries and Pisces coming together. So our identities are mixed in with that watery fantasy, fluid kind of stuff. Well, if that is the Golden Gate, that must be something really special for spirituality in the sense of awakening, right? Exactly. That's what I'm trying to get to. That is a huge part of awakening, in my opinion. That shows, but not just that, it also shows the feminine energy coming in and being awoken through that feminine, like Kundalini, or like I think of, which we do with you, Maria, that Mary Magdalene or kind of energy, because both of those ladies are part of the dragon tribe, the Sophia dragon tribe, which is the feminine energy. And they taught in those mystery schools, all part of the same feminine wisdom teachings. So it's very significant. Yes. So, and I don't really have to go over all the dates and stuff, you guys. But I do think it's interesting. And I told Carla that real zodiacal signs, according to the borders between the constellations, which was established by the International Astronomical Union, which I didn't even know they had one, the IAU, in 1930. And these are the actual astronomical signs and dates, meaning that is when the sun is in those particular things. That is truly what's in the sky, according to the International Astronomical Union, all the way back from 1930.
Wow.
Which was almost 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Which was pretty much when we started having telescopes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just no denying it for me, you know? There's just no denying it.
Mm-mm.
Also, one last thing, because I got to go as soon as my hubby gets here, but I did take the real sky, and I went, I don't know if you can see that, to each one of them, and I started putting the degrees of how big each one is. So just to show you. So when we start with Aries, because in traditional Western astrology, they're each 30 degrees, right? And Scorpio and Ophiuchus are in one house. They're in the 8th house. They're based off of the 8th house. So we don't have 13 houses. We still have 12. But the first house, or the first sign, zodiac sign, Aries, is 21 degrees, not 30. Pisces is a whopping 42 degree size.
Wow.
Not 30. Aquarius is 23 degrees. Capricorn is 26 degrees. Sagittarius is 33 degrees. Ophiuchus is 13 degrees. And Scorpio is 13 degrees. Libra is 19 degrees. Virgo is a whopping 50 degrees. Whopping.
Yeah, I was just looking at that
constellation.
It's gotta be big.
It is. And when you look at it in the sky with your like stellium, your what is it called?
Stellarium.
Stellarium. There you go.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
On the ecliptic, it is long because it kind of she lays sideways. So she takes up a lot of sky. So it takes a long time for the moon to move through her, and it takes a long time for the sun to move through her. Yeah. Because she's that much larger. And Leo is 38 degrees. Cancer is 20 degrees. Gemini is 25 degrees. And Taurus is 36 degrees.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yes. Which makes up a total of 359 degrees.
Oh. Interesting.
So I might have been off by 1 degree on one of them, or it's a little bit iffy.
Right.
Instead of the 360 degree. So you know that would be one of the reasons why when you look up in the sky, or like with Western astrology, and it says, well, the sun is in Taurus.
To me, that's confirmation right there, sis.
Right.
That
Yes.
Western is just, how can it be accurate? That's my opinion. But how can it be accurate? How?
I think it's just accurate within its system itself.
In the right, the
System.
reading, but the calculations can, if you're using it as just a typical calculations with the 30 degrees, it's not going to be accurate.
Right.
It's just not.
It's not accurate as to what is truly in the sky.
Mhm.
And if you're somebody that's not big in astrology, you're not really working magic, you don't use the moon for cycles and stuff like that, then who cares? Just go by what you do. But if you do use those things and you want to use the proper energies, and I'm not saying that you can't use whatever you want if you are, obviously the majority comes down to your intentions and you're the power. However, if, let's say, for instance, you're working with a water energy that's in the sky and you're trying to do some sort of fire magic, you're going to be washing out that magic a little bit because of the correspondence that's the energy that everything is in. So why not learn what truly is in the sky and use that to your benefit?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. It's just another correspondence like anything else.
Mm-hmm. So
that's just the way I see it. Intentional work, and then just adding a little bit more on top of that. You know, for me, that's the way I see it.
Yeah.
So
excellent.
Yeah, this went a little bit longer, guys, and I got to call my hubby back. I hope this helped.
Mm-hmm.
I just suggest doing your own research on Ophiuchus, putting your own stuff together, because with it just being something newly that's reemerging, look around you, see the kind of stuff that's happening in the world, and use that as your association, just like they have throughout history with astrology and planets and all that.
Does it duly describe real sky in depth with her interviews with Amber?
I mean, it's in her book, and I got a lot of that out of her Real Sky book for Ophiuchus. But that's just her. That's just her
interpretation of
it. Right. Because there's other.
I'm definitely gonna look at that. Definitely.
Yeah. But I mean, even beyond that, though, that's what I'm saying. Just look at the world and what it's going through, and put your own kind of spin on it. That's what astrologers have done. Nobody else, when it comes to astrology, why not? You can even make up your own system. Nobody says you have to use anybody else's.
Right.
You can do whatever you want. But for me, I just say use what's really in the sky.
Right.
That's the only difference. You can use whatever astrology system, but use what's in the sky in order to, if you're going to try to work things with it. I mean, you can do whatever you want. Anybody can. You know what I mean? But I will say also, when it comes to Western, though, I got something on my screen. When it comes to Western, if there are tons of people that also believe that this is the energy, there's power in that too, though, seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's all in how you look at it. There would be less power of people in the world that are using Real Sky, because there's not as many people that are using Real Sky versus the people that are using Western, because it's all over Western. And something else to consider. Tarot systems use Western astrology for the most part, other than Julie's. Right? I've got several decks, and other than Real Sky, all of them, other than an actual Vedic, the majority of them all use Western astrology, that fixed system, because it's easier too, I think, but also because that's what the system was. So they built other systems on top of that. The Kabbalah is associated with Western astrology. So we got to weigh all those things as well. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I say use whatever system you want.
Yeah.
Maybe use them all if you want, you know? So, anywho, And it's 4444, guys, on my thing. So I love you guys. Thank you for joining us. I hope that this was helpful this week. What do you want to talk about next week? I haven't even thought about that. What do we want to talk about? Maria, give me an idea, honey. Yeah, what do we want to talk about? What's left? We've talked about so much. Yeah, exactly. The Golden Dawn worked with Western. Yeah. So do we want to start something different instead of astrology next week then?
Good.
Or do we want to start hitting on other asteroids and stuff? Or do you guys want to just move on? Because it was only supposed to be about the basics anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to start working and exploring more with like geomancy? Or do you want to start the palmistry, sis?
Ooh. I think the geomancy might be quicker.
Yes, because I've already got stuff made up for that.
Yeah. What?
I know, I'm in a live. What does he need?
Okay, well, he said he's stuck at work and someone has to go get the groceries.
Oh.
I can't do it. My guys are tired.
Typical. Okay, I gotta go, guys. All right. Love you. We'll talk about it later. Bye, guys.